Hello there. Thanks for joining us for our Friday night spiritual insights with Michael Mirdad. Somebody wrote in and asked if I would talk about something, and just bear with me for a second, something called special relationships, quote unquote, special relationships. And this is a term used in A Course in Miracles. So I have to sort of explain and give some background. It doesn't matter. The terminology, special relationships, it's got a very deep root to why he's using that term, why that book uses the term. And in modern terminology, you could say, instead of special relationships, codependent, because special is being used almost sarcastically. So it means codependent relationship. So when someone says, what does the Course mean by special relationships? It's the same as what you could say would be codependent relationships, except its approach is from a much deeper spiritual, psychological level, instead of sort of the just modern psychology or modern relationship terminology. All right, so to explain, here's how it rolls. We are holy beings created in God's image. We then, without being able to go into the reasons right now, we then wondered what life would be like if we could separate from God. And so we seemingly created a world where we sort of blasted away from the center that is God. We blasted away from God and became a countless numbers. It's beyond trillions, a countless number of what seems like individual little souls flying desperately through the universe because we've blasted away from the light of God. That's how it seems. You can't really leave God, separate from God, but this is how it seems. So we blasted away and created an alternate reality. Instead of the capital R reality of God, the lowercase r, our own reality. And as we blasted away, we, just like anything that sort of explodes apart, something that was together, like a family that was together that blasts apart. A job that was together and blasts apart. Anything that sort of explodes, this rude awakening, the loss. So just intuit, guys, intuit what it feels like to lose something. And then imagine what it would be like to lose the most significant thing you could ever fathom. Love, oneness, God, bliss, peace, joy. So that's what happened. In our imagining that we could separate, we also then, as a result, because thoughts are things, as a result, we seem to have blasted apart from God, from love, from peace, from joy, but also from each other. We don't even have our own selves together, let alone connection to others. So all this is a fragmented universe. It is absolutely a fragmented universe, and you can try as you may, some spiritual version of a Rubik's Cube times a billion and try to put all the pieces back together. And that's what we have been trying to do on our own. Can't put together things in towards or to oneness without including the consciousness of oneness. But that's what we did. We tried to fragment it, tried to become one. So this Rubik's Cube times a billion or trillion or whatever gets rotated around. We're trying one lifetime after another, one relationship after another, and nothing really can and does come together. So because we're feeling all fragmented, I've always taught, this is really pretty clear in my relationships book, Creating Fulfilling Relationships. The idea is, in the title, it's fulfilling relationships. And it's a funny thing because publishers and people like that, they have asked me at times, make your titles fad-like, something that would blast and become really popular for a year. And it's okay if it doesn't sell after that, because you've made your millions off of that, and then do another book with a pop title. They call it sexy title. So if I title my book something like How You Can Find Your Perfect Other, it'll sell immediately, and then eventually people realize it's a lie. The title, and they won't dig it. So instead, I have to tell the truth. So my titles are more grounded, more true, more real, and it's creating fulfilling relationships. And the only way you can create fulfilling, totally filling, And fulfilling relationships would be to have all relationships brought towards wholeness, healing, and fullness. So that includes the relationship with God, with yourself, and with others. So, and all of these really work partly independently and yet not. They also are, completely symbiotic and connected. So, at some point, we say, well, what can we do to have healthy relationships? And we try to keep having better relationships with others, but there's God, self, and others. And the last of those, in terms of importance, God first, man, always. And then as I develop a better relationship with God, I also integrate that into myself and have a better relationship with me. More honest, healing, responsible relationship with me. But then I also want to bring that. That's the key. I'm bringing my God and self to others instead of going to others to find God and self. And that's the key right there. There's a progression versus a digression. You can't really go to others for God and self. There are no others. Others and the world itself is simply an outer, an other is an outer, and it's a mirror of how we're doing inside. So this outer is a reflection of these inner relationships, God and self. All we're ever seeing outside is a reflection of what's inside. And so you're looking for love in all the wrong places. And instead, some people would then sell you on the idea, you looked for love in the wrong place. What you really need to do is look in a different place, location, still outside yourself. And it just doesn't work. It doesn't mean that there aren't going to be lessons. It doesn't mean you aren't going to have moments of highs and lows and so forth. But no real love, capital L in a sense, no real love, no real unconditional, sustainable. It's something that's high and low, comes and goes. So relationships are our number one way of healing ourselves, not because you can go and get yourself from others, but what you can do is learn about yourself through others. That's all. Others are a reflection, just a mirror. So don't fall in love with a mirror, guys. Don't blame a mirror either. They're just mirrors. So others do have an absolute value. The primary value is what they teach us about ourselves. And in codependent relationships, we do not understand that. We go to others to find ourselves. I don't feel very loved. Hey, will you love me? Oh, now I feel loved. But it can't last because it's a lie. First of all, because you are not loved. And secondly, they can't give you the love you thought you didn't have. First, because you have the love and you just don't know it. And secondly, because they don't exist. They're just a mirror to show you the love you have or don't have. So hopefully that's all making sense. But, as we go into understanding this, that's the key to bring self and God to others versus go to others for. That's the key, for ourselves. That's it. Now, if you understand that, then you'll know the rest. The rest is the relationship that's called a holy relationship in A Course in Miracles. Let's call it a fulfilled relationship, or we can call it an interdependent relationship. That's another term sometimes used. And that means I have my act together. It doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I kind of know what I need to do on a day-to-day, because it is a day-by-day process and one day at a time. And I understand the rules. Every day I'm starting with the core in God, creating a better self and bringing that better self to others as a kinder, loving, giving person, and so on. And then sometimes, wow, bam, it happens. These people trigger me. They attack and jab at me. What do? React back. Now you're having an outside relationship, which is unhealthy because there is no outside. You're having a schizophrenic, psychotic experience when you really engage too much with others like that in a blame, shame, whatever kind of relationship. So when others are triggering and jabbing, my most important thing for me to do is to go, wow, what's that about? What is it bringing up inside of me? And I don't mean in the traditional psych world sense when your counselors now have, people have started to make fun of the idea of counselors saying, well, how does that make you feel? that actually is like just scratching the surface. That's why it's become almost laughable when any of us say that to people anymore, because we're tired of hearing people say flippant things that don't do us any good. So how does that make you feel? You know, whatever the feeling is, anger, sad, whatever, it's not about just I'm angry. It's and why and what's going on. Not just that you're angry, it's what does this remind you of? When someone is jabbing or triggering you, what does it remind you of? Now, not just in the traditional sense, wait, it reminds me of my mother. Yes, I knew it was my mother's fault. No, 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 no. Blaming is never actually the goal. So in a lot of forms of therapy, just taking the blame off one person and directing it to someone else seems to be sometimes even the cathartic outcome, like a goal. Wow, I realized it wasn't my wife that I was mad at. It's my mother. Oh, her again, and you go, but I feel so much better now that I know it was her. That's actually not real healing. It's just misdirecting and redirecting the blame, which means there's still a problem. If anything, you're going to associate other people, it's only for this purpose. It's not just to say, well, I thought I had a problem with this one. Turns out there were 20. Now I hate 20 people. That's not the goal. Or past life people. That's not the goal. No matter if you name 1 or 100, the goal is to say, I'm the one who has a pattern with 100 people. I'm the one who has a pattern with 3 different people. Yes, this reminds me of other people that have done this. Not so that I can say, I knew it. It's their fault. Just more people. It's, oh my gosh, I get it. This isn't about who, it's about what. It's a pattern of whose? Mine. So if I heal my patterns, I become somewhat immune to the stuff that people bring at me, first of all. Second of all, as I heal, I also stop needing to project it in others in the first place. So that's why spiritual, holistic, fulfilling relationships are the only answer. Not one answer, not the best answer, the only answer. Healing, forgiveness, true reality, all those words are relevant to the real way this works. It isn't fixed by, okay, a new technique, find a cuter other, find a wealthier other. No, you're still having a psychotic experience thinking that there's others that you can either credit or blame for your life situation. There is no other. It's us. Now, I know that's challenging because, what are we going to do? Go to the bank and say, I would like their account. I'd like to have their money, please, because we're all one and there is no other, so it's mine. You're not going to get away with that. So it's a world that isn't designed to really honor or nurture this consciousness. So it's challenging. It's just, how do we do that? How do we deal with that? How do we navigate? I'm in love with everyone, and really get that that's possible to love everyone and just choose to live with this one or that one and somehow know that that's doable instead of I either obsess on one or I have nothing. It's this black or white thinking, as they say, that exists so much in dysfunctional, addictive minds. So the real way this is done, as I explained, it's bringing healthier self to others. Okay, first of all. Now, what we do is deep down we know, deep down we remember that we seemingly separated from love, God, etc. And that fragmented ourselves. So we are in a desperate situation going to others because when we open our eyes, that's all we see. Our body, based on our ego's version of ourselves and our body, it's so interesting, designed to only perceive outside. Very few people know how to experience inside. When something's happening, we're experiencing this world with our senses. Think about that, right? I mean, that's the obvious. We have senses, but people forget their higher senses. So they experience this world with their senses. I'm going to see it, taste it, feel it, smell it, and so on. So I'm going to have my senses telling me my reality, but my reality is found in here, not with my senses that go looking like probes in space to find a world, to find something out there. Whether it's, even if it's a probe into the body to look at the biology, anatomy, and so forth. The idea of going and looking means you haven't already found, or that you aren't already that thing. And that's what this world nurtures. I'm not saying this is all easy. I'm just trying to explain how this works, the progression and the connection to it all, and the digression in a sense. So it digressed by us thinking we're separate. And so we go looking and so on. Now that's codependence. But where the word special relationship comes in from the Course, and I'll tie that into common terminology, and it's this. When I feel empty connection to God, empty in relation to my connection to myself, I go looking. And I'm looking always. There's two things you're going to find when you go looking. Either I feel good today, thank God, thanks for them. I feel, someone told me I was handsome. Somebody told me I was smart. I feel so much better. Thanks to them, I have money. Thanks to them. When you're either going to credit people for giving you your good, or you're going to blame them for either taking your good or keeping your good from you. That person, they didn't love me the way I wanted them to love me, so, they're jerks and so on. Or they did love me, they took the love away. They took my partner, my partner fell in love with someone else, they took them away. The taxman takes my money. It's either I'm blaming others for taking. Even this world ages us. Everything's about blaming, or less commonly, crediting. But it's not a healthy crediting. So, in A Course in Miracles, he's facetiously using the term, isn't that special? Meaning this, though. You are assigning a unique and special function. That's what it means. It's like unique. Special, unique. So we assign to everybody in our lives a special function. They're going to serve a special purpose, a unique purpose, to either be the blame for our problems or the credit. As long as we don't find reality, then it's all about specialness. The reality would be, I'm going to forgive them for taking and doing and so forth to me, to keeping my good from me or taking my good from me. But I'm also going to forgive those who I thought were the source of my good. You have to forgive both, or else you're lying to yourself. There is nobody that has you. You are you. They don't have your good nor your bad. They're only reflecting our experiences. So they are given and assigned a unique and special function to be, that thing that I've assigned to you today. Today, I'm going to learn a lesson about rejection. I am uniquely assigning you the function, a special function, of course, to be the person who rejects me. And what people do instead is, I'm just a wonderful, innocent person, and they rejected me. See what they did? Now, that is not a person that can have a fulfilled consciousness. It's not a person that's healing. It's not a person that's actually even becoming any more spiritual. We think spirituality comes from reading it enough or saying it enough, even meditating and closing your eyes enough. It doesn't matter. You can chant yourself into, hours and hours of trance. If you can't open your damn eyes when you're done meditating and change the way you experience people and relationships, including with yourself, then you haven't gotten anything yet. You become a bliss bunny. Look at me, and that's just great. But once you open your eyes, it's still back to the same old, same old. So that's the unfortunate or fortunate reality, depending on how you look at it, that this world will only change through our forgiveness. And the forgiveness is, I need to first forgive others, all others, those who I thought were credit and those who I thought were the blame. My mother who ruined me genetically, my father who ruined me behaviorally, my father who, if it weren't for him, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have anything. I have his wealth, I inherited, or I have his whatever, skill set. My mother, she did this for me, and without her, I would have never, no. My husband, my wife, oh my God, I would be nothing without them. My children, oh, my dogs, my cats, It's all the same. I would have nothing, and that's what we're saying when we give credit to other people. Now, I'm not saying don't thank people, but thank them knowing that you're being courteous, you're being loving, and you're reflecting that, hey, thank you for being, it's almost like without saying the words, you could say instead of, thank you for being, decent to me because you make me feel so wonderful. Instead, what we're saying without these words is, thank you for reflecting to me that I'm growing. How do I know that? You gave me a beautiful gift today, and that's kind of a cool thing that you did. And how could I have created that gift without believing on some level that I deserved it? So, wow, you're essentially reflecting to me that I'm growing, I'm more prosperous. You gave me a raise at work. Thank you for reflecting that I believe that I deserve. That's great. See, I'm not saying you use those words because then people will feel like there's a lack of graciousness or gratitude. But that's the attitude that we can have, is it's all about reflection to ourselves, mirroring to ourselves. So we either, the first step is to forgive others for what we credited or blamed them for. The second step, forgive ourselves for projecting that onto them. Always forgive others, forgive yourself, and in the third step, there's no more need for forgiveness. As soon as I forgave others and myself, there was nothing left to forgive. In heaven, there's no need to forgive anything. In God, there's nothing to forgive. Yes, you could say I even need to forgive God if you have issues you want to look at about God. But in God, it ultimately disappears. If I have any issues with God, they're going to appear within myself and eventually and inevitably get projected onto others. So it's a great start to realize, forgive others for what you believe they've done. Forgive yourself for sort of not only projecting that onto them, but for believing that that's what you deserved. And then return into the light of God and you realize at this place there's no need for forgiveness. So, it's a progression back, but we digressed coming this way. God lost, self lost onto others. And all because I lost here and here, others are doomed to see the reflection of loss and loss. It's really hard to see a crystal clear vision of life, a crystal clear, 10G or whatever, now it's 4G and 5G, this crystal clear, we'll call it high definition life, when we're sort of shooting on tattered, old, half burned up Super 8 or regular 8 film, the little home movie kinds of things in the old days, or even worse, little Polaroid snapshots that turn yellow about an hour after they've, been shot. I'm exaggerating, but you get what I'm saying. We're trying to experience life from such a limited consciousness, and we're expecting bliss and blissful relations, and I do understand that it's kind of, for some people, irritating to kind of hear about this. Well, wait, what about love? And can't we just create a wonderful, perfect other person that makes us feel all wonderful? And no. So that's the answer to that. It just seems like you can. But here's what you can do. You can create nicer others, loving, sweet, beautiful others, because you've done responsible work with yourself. Because this is a reflection. The one is a reflection. So there are two types of relationships. Remember, I have several free videos you can watch in our playlist on relationships on YouTube. But, relationships, basically there's two types, gifting and karmic. It doesn't matter if it's a relationship like a family member, a work colleague, a person you meet just passing in a subway. It doesn't matter. Just at a sports event. Acquaintances, loved ones, life mates, whoever we encounter, strangers on the street for that matter, all of them are reflecting only one of two things: karmic relationships or gifting. That is to say, they are either karmic or gifts to us, karma or gifts. Karmic relationships are the most common. If you meet 100 people in a day, 90 something are likely karmic. And I'm not trying to sound like a downer here. What I'm going to say is because we live karmically, we live in our egos too much. But as you grow spiritually, which is one of the perks of getting on the path and growing, is your life changes for the better. At first you might run into, all the dark parts of ourselves that want to resist the change, but you stay the course, you grow spiritually, and then all of a sudden you start noticing gifting relationships. But when you do notice them, and do notice them, don't ignore them, notice them, breathe them in, give thanks for them, not just thanks to those others who are so nice, also, wow, I'm growing. I have more people being kind to me than I ever have. Not ego stroke kind, I mean more like truly kind. People like me, or I guess I'm lovable. I painted and they said it was a nice job. I mean, well, no, it's their job. It's an art teacher. You know what? No, it's the beginning of, wow, not so bad. That's kind of cool. Soak it in. Soak in those changes. And of course, become a gifting relationship to others. So think about that, which is when you go to the store today, did you leave with anybody made better? Now you can say, well, no, I mind my own business. I just go in, I shop, I leave. So I didn't do any harm. You did. When you're not helping, then you're hindering automatically. You don't have to overtly hinder to hinder. Not helping is a hindrance. Not helping is hurtful. Not helpful is negligent. There's a saying, in the old school terminology, there are sins of commission and sins of omission. Sins meaning, mistakes or harms done or whatever, but just using the common term. Sins of commission are simply, those are the things I did that were not very nice. But there are sins of omission, which is there's chances I had to do good and I didn't. Now, strangely, Edgar Cayce, and I'm not going to overemphasize this point, but I'm going to say that Edgar Cayce was fairly emphatic in the way he worded that, because he was like, all kinds of mistakes we make that we commit, deeds and so forth, those he's saying basically are more easily overlooked by our soul than sins of omission. So take that for what you will, but my point is just to say that sins of omission, mistakes of omission are serious. Yes, don't commit acts of hurtfulness, but when you think, well, I didn't harm anybody, so I'm just peachy, are you bringing good? Are you making a difference? Did you leave the store with even one person? You went out and ran errands today. Is there even one person that was positively affected by your presence? And if you can say yes, right on, man. Nice job. Now, let's try 2 tomorrow. Now, that doesn't mean it has to add up to 1,000 within months. I'm not trying to overly push that you have to, go out and do a certain number. I'm only saying that should be our general pattern. That several, forget the number going up, 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 up per se, like in a literal sense. Just in general, are there several people that I've left better somehow by my being here? That's not only a person who's going to get to go to heaven because you've been a good boy or girl. It's actually a person who is living in heaven now, and in fact is the presence of heaven. When I am in my goodness and my healthy, loving, gifting behaviors and presence, I am the presence of heaven. That's what heaven is, total goodness. So the more I bring goodness and am the goodness, I am the presence of heaven. I don't have to pray for heaven on earth. I am heaven on earth, even in my day-to-day doings, actions, beings. So that becomes interdependent. I feel very good. I feel nicely connected, God and self, and I feel so good today. My morning, I start every day with that connection, communion with God, which, it's an exercise that I printed and put on my website for free. It's a download called Daily Communion. I daily connect with Spirit, with God, and I integrate that into myself. Now I feel more fully equipped to bring that goodness to the world. Now, if you say, I'm going to bring it to that naughty, bad, evil world because I'm good, and then you're missing it again. I'm just going to bring it to the world, period. I'm not going to judge what the world is doing. I'm just going to bring this to the world. And yes, The world doesn't nurture these kinds of things, but how could it ever if we don't bring it at some point? As they say, the world changes through our efforts. We have to show up and be the change we want to see in the world. So I feel interdependent. That means basically not codependent. Codependent means dependent upon others. Generally, that's a definition. But what it also means is you are responsible for my anything, good or bad. You are responsible. That's codependent. Interdependent understands I am and I bring and now we are. Very cool. That's interdependent. But what if they don't want that and they're jabbing I am and I'm bringing and they don't like it? I don't care. There are parts of me that have resisted before. There are parts of our collective that still wants to resist. Whatever you want, however you want to see it, I don't care about that. I'm caring only about the truth of God, the presence of God, not about the ego reactions. This is what we have to do. And it's like a very objective, interdependent, complete within myself kind of state of mind. I've got it. I'm good. I've shared many times with folks, in talks where if people ask me to do something that I'm not interested in doing, I often use the terminology, no, I'm good, thank you. I don't mean that to be snooty or anything. The words that pop out of me are just that. No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm good. Michael, here's something to eat or drink. No, I'm good. If I'm not needing anything, I just say I'm good because it means I'm clear. I'm fulfilled. I'm fine as I am. I'm not trying to say anything profound. It's just how I learned to say it. It came out that way. So that's how we can be, and not always in words, but in attitudes too. So when someone tries to get you to engage in an argument without saying, no, I'm good, I don't need to be in this argument. Instead, it's an attitude of, you're saying to yourself, good, got it, done. And then with that comes peace. So it's, not choosing to engage. So I'm feeling, okay, I'm at peace. So that's kind of a good way to look at it. Just think about it that way. Interdependent versus codependent. That's what the Course is trying to use, with deeper meaning though. Holy relationships, special relationships. Special hate relationships, sometimes they're called when you are blaming them, for your problems, or special love relationships where you think they are the answer to your problems. They're still special in the sense that you're assigning them the special function of fixing you, or fixing you by giving you something, or by making you feel better that it was somebody else's fault. It's not a real fix. It's not a healing. It's a quick fix. Not a real fix. It's a quick fix, and it will wear off. The people you think you love because they're so nice to you, ego stroke wise, that's going to wear off because eventually they're going to forget to give you the flowers they usually give you, or whatever it is, and it wears off. A holy relationship is interdependent, but that's not to say that they're just objective and interdependent. A holy relationship, the word holy is used for an important reason, just like special is being used in A Course in Miracles very specifically. It's very important that it's using that. You could say, well, they could have just called it codependent, and yes, they could have. But he's got a reason for that little bit of cynical use or the sarcastic use, because we so often think people are just so darn special, wonderful, beautiful, because they like us. Of course, people that don't like us are the opposite, and we don't like them. He's saying, no, they're the same. Whether you think you like them or whether you think you have good cause to hate them, they're actually fulfilling your specially assigned function of them being something of importance or value, or even existent. They're not. They're just a reflection. They're not the cause of anything. They're a reflection. So then when we go to holy, he's using the word holy because he's saying you can't just become objective and interdependent. I'm fine, I don't need anything. That's a false form of it. What it means, holy means, you didn't just say, well, people are screwed up. I think I'm going to stop with special relationships and codependence. I'm just going to go have one with me and God in a cave in the Himalayas. No, that's not a holy relationship. Holy means specifically that you have done the following. You have seen what you're doing and chosen to forgive others for the role that they're playing, not doing this and doing that and saying hurtful things, and learning to forgive, but then forgiving yourself for assigning them that role, because you were the director and you asked those actors to play those roles, and now you're ticked off at them because they played it too well. They stopped playing the role that you were hoping them to play and you're mad at them, or they played it all too well. I played you to, hired you to play a villain, and damned if you didn't do a great job at it. Now I'm hating you for it. It doesn't make any sense. Director's insane. Forgive yourself. Wow, what was I thinking? I can see by the 5 relationships I've had where I had betrayal, or abandonment, or whatever it was. I can see that reflected to me little bits of myself that might think that I'm unlovable or unworthy or whatever it might be. I look for my own patterns. So, where I started with God and then losing God, self, and then losing others consistently and being upset about it, I now learn to forgive others, forgive myself, and connect with God. But I don't just say goodbye to others, say goodbye to self, and become one with God. What happens is, on a day-to-day basis, I came this way, I return this way, and I come back this way. So, I'm enlightened once upon a time. But then I fall into the earth plane and all its trappings. Then I find enlightenment again. But even after enlightenment, before enlightenment, I'm chopping wood and carrying water, and after enlightenment, I'm going to go and chop wood and carry water still. You still engage, you'll still possibly make love, you still possibly have jobs, do the normal things in life. But something changed, and here's what changed. Instead of me losing self, God, and self, and going into the world of others and trying to simply repair my world by getting a raise, that means I'm better. Getting a better car, that means I'm better. Having people that seem to like me. Having good of anything, great meals or good sex, and all the stimulating and sedating things that you want. Wonderful, that's the world. And that's what most of the books and teachers are talking about. It's all bogus because it's still focused on others which are not even there. So all of these books, teachings, and so on, that even movies that make you go, oh, I want that. It's all a way to trap us into the illusion that cannot give us anything, can't cause us, can't give us anything. All they can do is reflect to us what we're already experiencing. So when I forgive others, I'm really shaking things up a bit in terms of consciousness. I'm freeing the world from holding an image of a place of limitation and karma, and I'm freeing it so that it can become a place of beauty and a sense of being restored. Suddenly, like, wow, every blade of grass is, chanting at our holy godlike presence, and we at theirs as well. Every tree is offering to shade us if we're too hot. Or to make sounds when the wind blows, and it's dancing and making sounds like little instrumentation for us. In other words, it becomes a world that reflects the presence of gods and goddesses, and the world is saying thank you for being here, instead of bam, 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 beating us up for, the world that says, how dare you show up disconnected from yourself? How dare you show up forgetting your divinity? If you're going to do that, then we're just going to kick you. Now the tree drops a limb on your head. And now this happens and that happens, and the disease. There's a disease that gets in the tree that once could have shaded us, and I'm talking about metaphors too. It's people, literal disease, psychological disease, emotional disease, relationship disease, communication disease. All these things happen because they're reflecting a diseased consciousness that we collectively have and had shared, but we're healing now, and with healing comes deep responsibility, and with responsibility comes healing. They're the same. So as we learn to become more interdependent, it also means more responsible. But the word holy is used ultimately for the holy relationship because we are whole again. Sacred, holy, but also whole, W-H-O-L-E, again. We're whole, we're one. The people that I thought were others, that were, separate and keeping my good from me or taking my good, whatever, I forgave them and allow them to be who they are. I don't mean just be who they are in the traditional sense, but again, they're holy. I release them to find their holiness because that's who they really are. When people say, oh, I'm just going to respect them for who they are, that means I'm respecting your ego for what it tells the person they are or tells me they are. That's actually not a healthy concept, but people use it all the time. I digress. So back to this. It's holiness means I forgive you for what I thought you were, and now I would love to see the real you. Oh, me too. Geez, I forgive you for what you thought you were, and I release you so that I can get to know the real you. Oh, God, there we are. I release you from what I thought you were, some punitive, angry God, to be what you really are. So to do that, in doing that, I become whole. But to do that, it means forgiveness, 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 until we realize there's nothing left to forgive. I am forgiveness. I am a forgiving mind. I'm seeing a reflection of forgiveness. And that's where gifting relationships come in. Karmic relationships reflecting our ego, our stubbornness, our hates, our projections, etc., judgments, and so on. Holy relationship comes from forgiveness, 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 and now holiness comes with me back into my world and reflects that to me. Here's the line again. Reflecting world, real world. The reflecting world will show me images of a broken mind or a healed mind, whichever I am in, whatever state of mind I'm in. And every day we learn, let's practice more and more forgiveness, the real forgiveness, not just, with a little bit of attitude, fine, I guess I have to forgive people for being jerks. It's, wow, how funny. I thought people were jerks, and that really brought up impatience in me. And then that impatience reminds me of all the patterns of impatience I have. So I guess it's not just the people. Sorry, guys, you all seem so ludicrous. I was impatient with you, but also I was that way with myself. How could I not be impatient with others when on some level I'm already in a judgmental state in my own being? So sorry about that. My bad. And then over to here. Oops. It was really me I was judging. And gosh, I want to release myself to be able to feel the peace and love of God. And when I do that, I then withdraw into my being, the presence of God, and then bring that forward into me. Wow, I'm a changed person. See, I'm not changed just when I let others go and work on myself. I still go into the deepest recess of myself. This is a daily process. Anytime you get triggered, this isn't just a theme. This is anytime you get triggered, find a way, when you can, look inside, track down what's going on inside. This is kind of in my Healing the Heart and Soul book. Track down what's really going on inside and release it, and then choose to, not just to release it, choose to replace it with something new. Triggered, 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 peace. Distrust, betrayal, love, peace. Anger, frustration, quiet, healing. Replace it with words like 2 words like love and self-worth, peace and joy, whatever it is. But then after you do that, I feel different now. I don't just feel different because I saw I was triggered coming this way. I feel different because not only did I do that, that which is God is now more in me. Now that I emptied some of the old, more of the new can fill me up. And that's fulfilling. So this comes into me and I feel different. Not done yet. Bring the change to others. In your Buddhism, in Course in Miracles, in 12-step programs, all of the steps, all of the 12 steps, all of the 365 workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles, they're all trying to do this one thing. How to teach us to connect more with God, how to become different from that, and bring that change to others. And I've shared before, this is one of the meanings to a phrase in the Bible, the Lord watches my coming out and my going in. See, that process. So I choose to let God watch over how I come into God, how I come out into the world and get triggered sometimes and then come back in and then get more connected and then bring that to God, to the world. And that's how I'm changing the world. I let God guide my coming in and my going out, and then my coming in again and my going out again, and so forth. It's really, really beautiful when you can see things from a different mindset, when you can understand how things work, but from a truer sense, a more profound sense. So think about that. Special relationships, on your little Hallmark cards. Ma, you are special to me. And we go, oh, I mean, that's how we are. I mean, but all it means is we're so empty and needy that one flattery and we're like, we're there. We're like, I do, Instead, wow, what's this? This person just smiled at me and I'm walking with a lightness in my step. Don't criticize that they smiled. I'm not saying make it a bad thing or negative, but just to be able to say, wow, that's so interesting. I guess I was feeling low enough to where one little thing was going to feel like medicine to pick me up. So I get it. I thank them for that, and I appreciate that. And now I get to be the thing that I thought the medicine gave me. So this is great, man. Now I feel connected to God, and I'm going to bring that to the world and even to the person that smiled. Now, when they smile, I don't just, kind of look from an ego or shallow place of gratitude. Instead, they smile, and I feel like, yes, and then I can bring that to them as a more awake person. Hi, and thanks for smiling. It's great to see you. But you're plugged in. You're totally centered. It's an amazing difference to, in a matter of seconds or minutes, and I've done it many times in my life, obviously. I've talked about it, and I work on these things, but many, many times, it could be many times per day, that for that matter, where, you just realize, God, this is great. We all have it. Isn't it great? Oh, you smiled and I smiled. And sometimes people think you're probably hitting on them because you look good and you're smiling and, you kind of have a sparkle in your eye. And because most of the time people do that, it comes from the facade. But how beautiful it is to actually be that excited about life. Hey, how's it going? Wow, you look great today, and actually mean it instead of saying, you look great, waiting for them to say you do too. No hooks, no games anymore. So everything can be different, and that's how we enter a holy life, a holy relationship. And remember, the karmic relationships, the gifting ones, the greater majority, by a vast majority, the karmic ones, but they're waiting to be healed so that we can create gifting ones, because the karmic ones are just already running on automatic pilot. When you work on yourself and when we work on healing with others, we actually create, through good karma, let's call it, but we create gifting relationships. So if you'd like more of those, have them, get them. But not by people giving them to you, by you earning them. And not earning in the punitive kind of guilt, shame kind of way. I mean earning them in the sense that you are growing and reflecting a healthier self through others, so it looks like gifting relationships. All right? All right, cool. Guys, thank you so much for sharing with me and letting me share with you. I greatly appreciate it. Many blessings, and be sure to love yourselves and love one another and practice forgiveness in every form possible. Forgiveness does not mean enabling, but it does mean knowing this is lessons for myself. Forgiveness in a nutshell, remember, in the forgiveness book it's clearly stated, but forgiveness in a nutshell, I refuse to hate them. I'm willing to learn what I need to learn, and I also affirm everyone's goodness. I release us all to a new life. Those few steps are really the foundation of what forgiveness is all about. So, guys, thank you very much and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.